Hello and welcome. My name is Alan, and we are back for more notable people from the region. Let's go ahead and hop into this. Today we are talking about Gate City, Virginia, and Abingdon, Virginia. We'll start with Gate City. It's a town located in Scott County, Virginia, on the southern border. And this will be a short list. First person we're going to look at is Fayette McMullen. He was the second appointed governor of the Washington Territories. Was a politician in the 1800s. A teamster, a banker, and the U.S. state of Virginia, from the U.S. state of Virginia, as well as being a politician. But he was the second appointed governor of the Washington Territory. Which was an incorporated territory in the U.S. that existed from March the 2nd, 1853 until November the 11th, 1889, when the territory was admitted to the United States as the state of Washington. So yeah, he was the second governor of the Washington Territory. So it was still a territory. It wasn't yet a state. Next person we're going to look at is Mac McClung. Matthew Mac McClung is an American college basketball player for the Georgetown Hoyas. He was a consensus 3-star recruit and among the top-ranked high school players in Virginia. And he rose to national acclaim online in 2017 for his slam dunking ability. But he played for Georgetown University. Mac McClung. Next person we're going to look at is Jack McDavid. He's a well-known chef and entrepreneur, and is the chef who opened Jack's Firehouse in 1989 in Philadelphia. That was a restaurant he owns. He's also served or showed up on a number of television shows and charities and stuff, so he's a decently known chef in the culinary world. And the last person we're going to talk about is Charles Hartgrove. He was the Chief Deputy Commissioner of the Tax Department for the state of Virginia, and has been the town managers for this for Ashland, Middleburg, and Gate City, the actual town we're talking about, Gate City. He's been as well the deputy city manager for Lynchburg, Virginia. He is currently the Associate Director of the Virginia Institute of Government. And also worked as a senior executive in the Virginia local government and state government for over 20 years. And that's Charles W. Hartgrove. And those are the people from Gate City. It's a short little list, so. But the next place we're going to talk about is Abingdon, Virginia. It's well known as one of the more historical towns in southwest Virginia. So yeah. 3 Virginia governors lived in Abingdon. Wyndham Robertson, who was the acting governor of the U.S. state of Virginia from 1836 to 1837, and he also twice served multiple terms in the Virginia House of Delegates. David Campbell lived in Abingdon, was a Virginia merchant, soldier, farmer, and politician, and became the 27th governor of Virginia, serving from 1837 to 1840. So remember, this guy, Wyndham Robertson, was an acting governor from 1836 to 1837. David Campbell, 1837 to 1840. So, and finally, John B. Floyd also lived in Abingdon for a while and was the 31st governor of Virginia, the U.S. Secretary of War, and the Confederate general in the American Civil War who lost the crucial battle of Fort Donelson. John Buchanan Floyd. But they just lived here. They weren't necessarily from Abingdon. Robert Armstrong. He was an officer in the U.S. Army and a candidate for the position of governor of Tennessee, and a United States consul to Liverpool. He was born in Abingdon. That was 1792 to 1854. Like I said, this it's considered one of the more historical towns in Southwest Virginia. So, Martin Beatty, born in Abingdon in 1784, was a representative from Kentucky. He worked as an iron furnace operator, a salt manufacturer, a rancher, and a farmer. That was Martin Beatty. The next person we're going to talk about is Francis Preston Blair, born 1791. He was an American journalist, newspaper editor, and influential figure in national politics, advising several U.S. presidents across party lines. So, yeah. Rick Boucher, born 1946, Abingdon native. He was an American was an American politician who was the U.S. representative for Virginia's 9th congressional district from 1983 to 2011, when he was defeated by Griffith, which I have no love for Griffith. That man's done nothing for this area. Anyway, yeah. He is a member of the Democratic Party, and he was defeated in the 2010 elections while trying to be elected for a 15th term. Like I said, he was defeated by Griffith. But that was Rick Boucher. Scott Cooper, he's born in 1970 and is an American director, screenwriter, producer, and actor, and he's known for writing and directing Crazy Heart, Out of the Furnace, Black Mass, and Hostiles. He's he's notable from being from Abingdon, Virginia. James King Gibson, born in 1812, was born in Abingdon and was a 19th century politician, merchant, sheriff, and banker from Virginia. Says he was a U.S. congressman. So, James King Gibson. Next person we're going to talk about is Gale Harris, born in 1931 in Abingdon. He was an American professional baseball first baseman who played for the New York Giants and the Detroit Tigers from 1955 to 1960. In 1958, Harris hit a career-high 20 home runs with the Tigers. So yeah, Gale Harris. The next person we're going to talk about is Henry Jackson, who was born in 1811. Was an American pioneer, businessman, and politician for the Minnesota Territory. Let me see if I can find out any more information on him, because it's kind of limited if you just hover it over it. So, Henry Jackson. Served in the Texas Army under Sam Houston during the Texas Revolution. Moved to Green Bay, Wisconsin, then Galena, Illinois, where he opened a store. After some difficulties, he moved to St. Paul, Minnesota, and was the first merchant to settle there. He was also the first postmaster in St. Paul and served on the St. Paul Town Council. He was also appointed Justice of the Peace by Henry Dodge, governor of the Wisconsin Territory, for what is now St. Croix County, Wisconsin. From 1847 to 1848, Jackson served in the Wisconsin Territorial Legislature. In the Wisconsin Territorial House of Representatives, and in 1849 he was elected to the first Minnesota Territorial Legislature, serving in the Minnesota Territorial House of Representatives in 1852. He helped found Mankato, Minnesota, and Jackson County, Minnesota was named after him. Once again, that was Henry Jackson. He was born in Abingdon. Next, we have John W. Johnston. He was the nephew of General Joseph E. Johnston, and he served as a U.S. Senator after Virginia was readmitted to the Union in 1869. Yeah, that was John W. Johnston. which means Joseph E. Johnston had actually lived in Abingdon and was the uncle of John W. Johnston. Um, Joseph E. Johnston was a Confederate general and an American Civil War in the American Civil War. Sorry. He served with distinction in the U.S. Army during the Mexican-American War and the Seminole Wars. And after Virginia seceded from the Union, he entered the Confederate States Army as one of their most senior generals. So, like, it's often claimed with Robert E. Lee that he only seceded because Virginia did. That was the same thing for Joseph E. Johnston. He seceded because Virginia did, so. Next person we're going to talk about is Eric McClure. He's an American former professional stock car racing driver and team owner. He last competed part-time in the NASCAR Xfinity Series, driving the number 0 Chevy Camaro for JD Motorsports. He was born in 1978. He's from Abingdon. Next person we're going to talk about is William McMillan. He was a lawyer, judge, deputy commissioner, and delegate to the 6th United States Congress from the Northwest Territories. He was among the first settlers of what would become Cincinnati, Ohio. And that was William McMillan, born in 1764 in Abingdon. Next is Henry Warren Ogden, born in 1842 in Abingdon. He was a member of the U.S. House of Representatives for Louisiana's 4th Congressional District and was also a Louisiana planner. That's Henry Warren Ogden. Next, we will talk about Granville Henderson Oury, born in 1825 in Abingdon. He was a captain in the Confederate Army and later a U.S. congressman for the state of Arizona. He had also been a lawyer, a judge, and a miner. And that was Granville Henderson Oury. Next person we're going to talk about is John S. Preston, born 1809 in Abingdon. He was a Confederate general in the Civil War and a politician for the state of South Carolina. He had been a wealthy planter, a soldier, and an attorney. He was an ardent secessionist and was South Carolina's delegate dispatched to help convince the Virginia Secession Convention to join South Carolina in seceding. So he was a diehard Confederate, believing seceding from the Union was the only way. Like I mentioned before, there were those who lived in the South who weren't, you know, highly pro um, secession or Confederacy. They just loved their states, or they believed slavery was wrong. There was a lot of mixed feeling in these border areas. But John S. Preston, he was one of them that was a diehard. As opposed to, let's see, I think it was Joseph E. Johnston we were talking about. Yeah, he only seceded because Virginia did. But anyway, that was John S. Preston. Next, we're going to talk about Robert Sayers Sheffey. He was an American evangelical Methodist evangelist and circuit riding preacher, renowned for his eccentricities and power in prayer, who ministered to and became part of the folklore of the Appalachian region of Southwest Virginia and southern West Virginia. But he was born in Abingdon in 1820. And that was Robert Sayers Sheffey. And the last person we're going to talk about is Hiram Emory Widener Jr., born in Abingdon in 1923. He was a U.S. Circuit Judge of the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Fourth Circuit and was one of the longest serving federal judges in U.S. history. And he died just 13 years ago, so that was Hiram Emory Widener Jr., born and died in Abingdon, but 1923 to 2007. But yeah, that looks like it was everybody that was notable from the area. Like I said, Abingdon's got a lot of history if you want to come down this way. It's part of the Virginia Creeper Trail. There's the historic Barter Theater, the Martha Washington Inn. But yeah, Abingdon is one of the more historical sites where everything seems to cross through. But that'll be it for this episode. As always, educate thyself, think, read, study, learn. They try to tell you something that you have a little difficulty believing, ask them to cite their sources. I just used Wikipedia, which shouldn't be its own individual source, but I was just looking up names in the meantime, so. But I'll see you all in the next video. Until then, later.